He's only in 3.6% of teams, and he's 6.1 million compared to 7.2.
Great price.
So yeah. I mean, there's not much in it in terms of kind of points, and there's a significant A differential in terms of point in people selected and price. So yeah, I think it's like the Zaha good start to the season, but you kind of start to see him fizzle out a little bit. That's kind of
he does it every season, doesn't he? He sort of he 1 minute he looks like one of the best players in the Premier League, and then the next minute he just fades out of games. He just doesn't look up for it.
I think that's why he's never had that massive move after kind of leaving United.
I think that's a good shout with Townsend, though. I think he's a bit of a cut horse, isn't he? He's like, a push on through. And I think
great left foot, right? Yeah,
exactly.
I do think it's not going to be a classic. And I think, Palace showed some great form start of the season, but now we're seeing what they were like when we came back from, the COVID break last season. So this could be
Warren Hodgson, mate. That's what it is.
Yeah. This could be a defensively minded game. That said, we're seeing probably a goal for each team. Moving on to next game, we have got something a little bit more exciting than the last two. Spurs versus West Ham. Captain, your boys up against Pellers, both on form. 10 goals between you both in the last game. What's going to happen?
I just think it's going to be a great game. It's going to be an awesome.
I think it's got a good game written all over it, and there's usually goals between us. It's going to be obviously a tough game, both ends. Obviously, West Ham are probably playing the best they have in the last probably 2 years. Since the return of COVID, to be honest, we've been pretty good. It kept us in the Premier League last season. What's going to be interesting though, Captain, is if old Gareth Bale will be ready. Do you think he's going to be ready in time? Because there's a few kind of murmurs that he might be ahead of schedule, getting back to full fitness. I think that could change the game as well. It'll really ignite Tottenham.
Yeah,
if he is starting, with the form that Son and Kane are in, I mean, they're arguably the three best, apart from Liverpool, the three best, front three. But I think it's going to be a good game. I think it's going to be hard to call which way it's going to go. Similar to how MVD was saying about the Everton and Liverpool game, I think this could be one of those as well. It could go either way. We've both seen it over the years. 4 threes. 3 alls, lots of goals in. If I'm going to shout out anyone for West Ham, I have to say my lad Bowen. He started the season really well, picked up where he left off last season as well. He's still in very low percentage of teams. He's only 1.8% of teams, but he's scored 27 points. He's scored a couple of goals, gets assists as well. Probably looks our most dangerous player. And of course, Antonio. We all know what he did at the back end of last season. And Antonio, 6.3 million. He's going to be competing with the likes of that, Morpay and Wilson. So that could be interesting. But you can't look no further. I'll hand it over to you, Captain. Son and Kane, you can't really ignore them.
I was going to say, just before you hand it on to Captain, I was going to say, you've got to give you a new name, mate. You're like Ricky the Jared Bowen fanboy now. You've taken
I love him, mate. I love him.
Out every week, mate.
He's a breath of fresh air at West Ham team. I tell you what, because he's not afraid to take players on, and we haven't had that kind of player in a while. Antonio does well on his own. He works his socks off, but he takes players on. He's not afraid to beat players. Come from the Championship, and I think he's proven himself.
Captain, what do you think the score will be?
The score? We're playing really well at the moment. I can't see Spurs not winning. West Ham are playing really well at the moment. I think we'll nick it. I think it'll be 2-1.
2-1 to Spurs. Where are the goals coming from? Is it Sonny Boy or is it Kane?
Sonny Boy. Sonny Boy's on 45 points now. It's crazy. 45 points. And Kane's on 44 points. If you're doing a wildie like this week, I mean, you can't ignore them.
Yeah, I mean, you've got an easy run, right? You've got Burnley, West Brom are in there, the next sort of...
Yeah, this is what I mean. I mean, I don't know how long this run's going to last, but it's looking good.
I can see so many people's teams just having Son and Kane now. It's West Ham, Burnley, Brighton and West Brom are your next 4. It's time to get Spurs in there. They're on form. Okay, guys, that is Tottenham versus West Ham. Quick question, Pellers. Is David Moyes back in the dugout?
He's back in the dugout, mate. Yep, he's already raring to go. But we all want him to stay at home. We all want him to stay at home because whenever he's not there, we win.
It's going to be 5-0.
Yeah.
Someone to try and get him Try and give him COVID. So
Just so he stays at home, watching Netflix.
He's also the sort of manager that looked like he had COVID before he actually probably got COVID, isn't he?
Yeah.
I think he looked
a little bit white and pasty.
Oh dear, it's gonna be a good game.
Ginger
I can't wait for the game, to be honest. But Russ, we'll have to FaceTime each other while we watch it or something.
Definitely.
Unless we start losing.
Well, best wishes to David Moyes. We're only joking, David. We love you, except for when you're a Man United manager. And moving on swiftly, Leicester versus Sean the John Mcginn fanboys team Villa.
I think this game's going to be very juicy, right? It depends who actually turns up. It's going to be very difficult to call both these teams having some phenomenal results, obviously, in the last couple of weeks, right? Villa have actually been the on-form team of the season, and I think there's a lot of value in there. I don't have any of their players in my team, but I mean, you've got in every position there's someone cheap that you could get, right? Tyrone Mings in defence, 5.1 million, 23 points so far this season. It's impressive. Grealish in midfield at 7 million for 35 points. Obviously, John McGinn, not as many, but 22 points for 5.5 million. And then up front is that lad Watkins. What's he going to come to, right? After his hat trick, is he worth a shout as well? Not everyone gets a hat trick against the champions, right? But look, are they going to continue that? Have they just been on a lucky 3 or 4 games? Is that going to stay on for the season, or Villa going to find themselves in the top half of the season, top half of the table come January? What do you guys think?
I think it's a great question. When you look at that top half of the table, there's always one team that sneaks in there like every season. Like last season, we weren't expecting Sheffield United to do it. This season, it's Villa and Leeds, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, I think you can't ignore.
Yeah,
I agree, Jimmy. You can't ignore Grealish. He looks brilliant. He signed that contract for Villa now, so he's kind of committed to the club. He looks happy to be playing there. And he's playing, arguably some of the best football of his life. Got his England call up as well again. But Barkley as well. Barkley looks really good against Liverpool.
Well, yeah.
And I feel like if Grealish and Barkley play well in that midfield together and, going forward, it frees up Grealish a little bit to get further up the pitch. Barkley will do a lot more of the running back, box-to-box kind of midfield. And then, as Sean was saying there, Ollie Watkins, he looks like the real deal to me. I think he's going to go straight into my team.
I feel the one thing with Villa is as well that last year they were so close to relegation and they just made it and they just stayed up. And this season they're like, we're not going to be in that situation again. We're going to push on and show, who we are. And they're good form at the end of last season. And then to add on to the players you've mentioned, obviously, Sean, we got your boy John McGinn. He's done really well last season. You got Trezeguet, Hurahan. They all are capable of scoring goals. And that's what I actually like about that Villa team.
But then flipping over to Leicester, right? It depends which Leicester side turns up, right? They have no problem banging in goals. 3 against West Brom, 4 against Burnley, 5 against Man City. Obviously, Jamie Vardy getting a couple of penalties in his hat-trick there. So, I mean, they've been on fire. And then what happened last week?
West Ham smashed them.
3 past them, right? So, again, what team's going to turn up there? And, I mean, one thing is Leicester, yes, they've been scoring goals, but they've also been conceding. Right, and that's not great for them. Even they scored 5 against City, but they conceded 2 against Burnley. They conceded 2 and 3 against West Ham. And for someone who has Schmeichel as a keeper, as I have had the whole of last season, it's a bit unnervy there.
Will you be sticking with Schmeichel?
Yeah, why not? He's not really costing me any points. I don't think there's any goalkeeper so far this season that's been outstanding. There's obviously been a lot of goals, less clean sheets. So it's difficult to call that. And am I going to waste transfer to get him out? Probably not. If I had my wild card, I'd think about it, right? But does anyone in the squad have Vardy, or anyone tempted to get him in, or too expensive?
I think it's too pricey.
It's too much.
Too pricey, and he's been relying on penalties so far. I know there's going to be more penalties this season, as because of the interpretation of the new rule. But yeah, like you say, it's pricey. That Castagna, if I'm pronouncing that right, he's been on a lot of people's radars. Is he that good, or has he just had a lucky few opening games? You think?
I think he's decent, mate. He goes up and down that wing, but he's very quick. He's very skillful. I saw him against England this weekend, and he was good. What I like about him is he's always in that dangerous position. And when he puts a cross in, quite likely he will pick someone out in the box. Like he doesn't just fire it in and hope. And he puts in quality balls. I do think that he's going to be one that's worth keeping for the season. I mean, how much is he though? That's the only thing.
He's just risen in price again. He's up to 5.8 now. So, it's still obviously cheaper than
someone with 28 points, right?
Some of those, yes, as a wing back. And, it's like you said though, Sean, are they going to keep clean sheets, Leicester? That's the only question mark.
For me, mate, what I'd be saying is you look at like Doherty, who's gone to Spurs, right? If you've got Doherty still in your team, hasn't done it, I've not seen the form there, I'd be looking at Castagna, like, personally.
Yeah, good shout.
Yeah, well, overall, it's a difficult game to call, right? But let's go 3-2 for Leicester.
Fantastic. Thanks, Sean. Moving on to the next game, West Brom versus Burnley. I had the pleasure of looking at this, lads, and not really seeing anything there at all. So let's move on.
Wolves.
Yeah, the last one, Leeds versus Wolves. I actually like this one a lot more. I think West Brom Burnley, we probably shouldn't overlook it completely. I know Pereira, you had him in your team, NVD, didn't you? You brought him in.
Yeah, did absolutely nothing. But I mean, he's been their main, I guess, kind of their main outlay in terms of contributing.
He's one of their best players, right? Yeah, definitely.
The one thing I'd say is that West Brom have let in 13 goals. Burnley have let in 8 goals. So between them, they've shipped 21 goals.
Crazy.
Is this where they both get their first cleanie?
Could be.
Tarkovsky's back now because he didn't play the first few games. And I actually thought it was around the speculation he was going to be moving on. But he was actually just injured and he's back now. You thought he was
going to the Hammers, didn't you?
I thought he was.
We were trying to get him. Us every week.
We were trying to get him, but I think we lost out. I think they wanted like 20-odd million for him, whatever. 50 million or something stupid like that, because he's obviously a good centre-back. But yeah, is Pope going to yield the same returns this season? I don't know if he will. I think Burnley are going to struggle.
It doesn't look like it. Burnley are struggling, right? And we've seen like this, right? We've seen Wolves struggling, Burnley are struggling. Like those teams that are staple from last season that you put your money on. Surely it's got to change. Sheffield United were good last season, not good now. Is it just like these are teams are no good this season?
Yeah, I think so. I can't see, but I can see Burnley just not looking good for them.
They got Sean Dyche, mate.
That legendary player.
Pitbull. All right, fine. Moving on. Leeds versus Wolves. Captain, you're not liking Wolves this season. You're more of a whimper, isn't it?
I kind of... It is. It's like kind of like tail between legs at the moment. I think like Jimenez, I got him in my team after playing my Wildie, and not that I'm regretting it because I still think he's going to come good, but what a slow start. I mean, when are they going to turn it on again? I mean, Doherty, you may love him or hate him. I know many of you guys didn't particularly like him, but I'm not saying he's like,
Hang on, we all liked him. Sean didn't like him.
But
we had nothing against the guy.
He's still in my team, to be fair.
I kind of had him in my team both seasons, and he scored me a multitude of points. And I don't know. And with John not in the team as well, even though he only played like every game week, he'd play like exactly 42 minutes for some really weird reason. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe Jimenez has not got the service this season, and maybe it could be a bit
fair point
out for him. But who knows?
He's got Traore around him. He's got Podence in there. They have got the players. They got Neto. This could be a game where Leeds go into. I think Leeds have looked really good and exciting. Could be a 4-3er.
I think they're going to win. I think Leeds will win it.
They're at home as well, right?
Yeah.
And lads, what do you think of the value picks for Leeds? Do you boys think this is going to be a high-scoring game?
Get Bamford in.
Yeah, it will. It will.
Yeah.
I mean, they got a couple of good players. I mean, Rookie called it out, Bamford. But, I mean, you got Costa and Klitsch as well. Again, these aren't expensive players, and they're not massively owned as well into, 10%, 7% respectively. You've got Harrison there in amongst them. He's only 2% picked as well. So strong differentials.
So worth a punt for your cheap choice.
Cheap bench.
Very cheap.
If you,
Or forward, Okay.
Very cheap choices.
The one thing I would like to just point out at the last point on Wolves, they don't ever really seem to get a route. They don't really seem to put 3 in and 4 and 5 and 6. They always seem to get like 2 goals, maybe
1
one.
or 2-0. Yeah. It's usually Jimenez, isn't it? Though